What up, everybody? It's JP Finley, Beltway Football, brought to you by Oarsman Automotive of Virginia. We ride with them once you do the same thing. All right, this is highly, highly technical, so stay with me. Mitch and Peter are here. Hello, boys.
Hello.
Hello.
We're coming to you from the future, which is actually kind of the past. It is maybe not the future at all, just the past. It is 9:13 p.m. on Wednesday, June 20th. Right?
Tuesday, June 20th.
Tuesday.
You're in the future if you think it's Wednesday.
Perhaps I am. But on this podcast coming out Friday morning, Pedro?
Yeah, Friday. Well, Friday early for all the beachgoers and weekend warriors and stuff.
But Pete is Viva a Mexico on Thursday.
Not Viva, Vamos. Viva, I would be living there forever. Vamos, me and my girlfriend are just traveling to.
Yeah, but for me to say you're going, I think I say Viva.
Vas. Tu vas a Mexico. This is very specific.
Mitch, I didn't think we were talking about Vas on the pod anymore.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
This 8 seconds of Pete trying to speak Spanish on the pod does not bode well for his time in Mexico, in El Ciudad.
Let's do a whole Pete way out of his comfort zone at the end. We haven't done a mailbag in forever. We sent out via the Beltway Football Twitter account for some questions.
At Beltway Football.
Pete is our moderator here. We'll post this on the YouTube if you want to watch us. If you notice, we're wearing the same clothes from the last pod on the YouTube. It's a miracle of science. All right, Petey.
All right, first question comes from at Laffy_72, Jacob Laffoon. A very simple one, but one that has lots of answers. What's a stat line good enough for Chase this year to garner an extension? And you can take this in many directions. Mitch, you got a stat line off the top of that head of yours?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because the question is going to be at the end of the year, what money will Chase take? So maybe the question should be what would be good enough for the Commanders to want to engage with him on it. I think it's got to be 17 games played. I think you got to see double-digit sacks. We as a pod have had a good time arguing about impact plays, over-unders of impact plays. I think that, there can't be any debate that he was an impact player this season. And I think that's something that you have to see from him. I think you got to see, hard numbers on paper that you can point to and say he did X, Y, and Z. But you also have to, when discussing, Chase the player, say that guy made an impact consistently on what this defense looked like.
JP, I love that answer, Mitch.
Give me the question one more time. Just what contract's supposed to look like?
What's a stat line good enough for Chase this year to garner an extension? So not the extension itself, but what does he have to do for the Commanders to be like, that's someone we want to bring back after a couple of years of hardship?
Mitch's answer is right because
and I think the games aspect of that is very important. He's got to play. I mean, maybe not 17, but 15. So he's got to be there. We can't have more.
Yeah, I think 14, 15 is like your minimum number. But dude, what I think is so complicated here is that you're probably, and maybe not, and maybe there's a direct correlation to if Chase plays 15 games or 17 games that everybody is coming back. But I think it's entirely possible you're looking at a bunch of folks that didn't draft Chase being in charge by next February. And I feel like if it is these guys and they are in charge, they might just tag him. They made him play on a 1 year. They did it to Duran. I think.
So maybe it's just what does he have to do to garner staying in the Commander's uniform? I
think it's different because I think double-digit sacks becomes a baseline. And Mitch is right about disruptive plays, but 17 games, you know what I mean? We talk about the devaluation of a 1,000-yard season for a running back over 17 games. How hard is 10.5 sacks over 17 games? I'm not going to do the math, but that's what? 0.4?
Two every 3 games. Not even.
Yeah, 1.7 every 3 games.
No. 4 every, yeah, whatever it is.
I'm just going to divide 17 by 10 and give you that answer. It's
going to be
1.61. Oh, wait, no, I
Yeah.
got to do it the other way.
I'm telling you, I think it's 0.4 sacks a game. What's 0.4
Yeah.
times 17?
10.5 divided by 17 is 0.61 sacks per game.
he
So
needs half a
10
sack per game. A little bit better than half a sack per game.
0.4. I think I was right.
It's
Early.
No, the other way.
0.6.
It's a little more than a half a sack.
All right. Well, I was close. I was closer than you, Nubs. So, I've said this since they didn't pick up the option. I think we're just on a track to him not coming back. So maybe there's a monster season, but I think if there's a monster season, he wants to be a free agent. They tag him.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
my answer will be a little lame, basic, but it has to be like consistent production. Like Chase is a rookie, and people get angry about the 7.5 sacks. I think he was very impactful, but the issue was it was 2.5 sacks in the opener. Then there were some injuries and some quiet weeks, and then he had the scoop and score, and then he had a really nice goal line stand in Pittsburgh. But there were still games where he was not a factor, and he certainly wasn't in his second year when he was healthy. So it can't just be like Brian Arakpo going up against the Raiders and getting 4 of his 11 sacks in that one game. It's got to be a sack, a forced fumble, a sack, deflected passes like throughout the season. I think that's something Montez Sweat has struggled with. He'll go up against a backup right tackle, look like a freak, and then we think he's on the verge of breaking out, and it just hasn't come yet. I think that's what separates the pass rushers that you really like to have on your team versus the ones that you absolutely have to keep. And Chase, as good as he's been, his peaks are sometimes few and far between. All right. We have covered that.
For what it's worth, real quick, for what it's worth, Pete, if Chase had a 4-sack game, I'd be all in on that. I'd be okay with that.
Sure.
There wouldn't be a mark against him in my book. But go ahead.
Well, it can't just be 4 and then he's gone for a month. But yes, a 4-sack game would be good to have on the resume. All right. This is a little more off the beaten path, but I like it. This is from Jared Wasser, who I think used to be called like Spandex Boner or something when he reviewed our podcast a long time ago.
You better hope you're right. Otherwise, you just called this dude Spandex Boner.
It was something
Correct.
weird like that. It'll respond at some point. All right. If you did a bracket of the most Ashburn syndrome guys since 2000, who is the number 1 seed? I'll start while you guys, because I've thought about this a little bit. This probably
I have my answer right away.
I have my answer right away.
Okay.
There's a person that I coined the term for.
Whom?
Simi Cobb.
Yeah, that's a funny and really.
Unless I have him mixed up with some other practice squad receiver,
You're right.
That the Saints signed him, and the whole world was convinced he was going to blow up in New Orleans. And that now Ashburn syndrome has come to be like aloha, where it has multiple meanings. But when the term was first coined, it was the Ashburn syndrome of these people that think Simi Cobbs can't get on the field here is going to go with the Saints and blow up. Simi Cobbs, number 1.
I love that you said aloha, and I'm going to jump Pete's order for this reason. Colt MFing Brennan was the epitome of an Ashburn syndrome guy, where dudes thought that this guy deserved to be the starter, could start for 20 different NFL teams, despite being the 3rd stringer in DC for years.
I'll go with
Yes.
Terrell Pryor. He made the one-handed catch over like Josh Holsey or some no-name corner.
No, who was it, dude? He had the really long dreads. Nice guy.
Greg Kohler?
No,
yes, I think it was Toller.
Oh, was it Toller?
At camp in Richmond. It was like such a setup. It was like the threes going against the threes, and he saw like a 5'8" corner, and he literally, and it was like on the sideline they were standing, and he pulled the guy off the field, went in there and called for the fade, and it was like, and the fans went bananas.
And so did this guy in blue sitting in his parents' house. I went bananas. He looked the part. He was coming off like a season with the Browns where he really kind of put it all together, and he got a cheap deal, a prove-it deal, and it just he dropped 1 million passes in the opener, and he dropped a bunch of passes. He caught 1 random touchdown against the Chiefs on Monday Night Football, but aside from that, he was a nothing, and I will never fall for a training camp stud again. Just ignore Fitzpatrick and Gibson and a bunch of other players I've since fallen for because of Terrell Pryor. Ashburn.
Pete, you fall quick and you fall hard, buddy.
do.
Now, listen, we all were complicit in the prior hype that Richmond. I'm not denying any of that, but I just pulled it up because I remember making a point of pointing this out. That Browns team in 16 was god awful. They may have gone 0-for. They went 1-15. And I remember when everybody was so excited about the Pryor signing, I remember pointing out So he had 77 catches that year on 140 targets.
Yikes.
Yeah. Now the
That is-
quarterbacks were bad, so maybe a lot of those targets were junk. But the next closest targeted, not wide receiver, but just receiver of the football, was tight end Gary Barnage with 82, and then Duke Johnson was 74. He was the
That's
only
the greatest
dude.
show on turf 2.0 right
That-
there.
That Terrell Pryor catch. That Terrell Pryor catch was over one Josh Norman.
No, not the
No,
one. Not
not
I
the
remember the
one.
exact play. That
Now,
doesn't mean he didn't have a
Oh,
trade.
I'm looking at the wrong one. My bad. I'm looking at the wrong one. I'm looking at the wrong one.
now I'm changing my math from 10.5 divided 17. I'm looking at Terrell Pryor one-handed catches. Regardless, we all felt
That was a good one.
okay.
Yeah.
Hell, Norman might have been some too.
Yeah. So Carbon Sim is wondering, they'll spread the ball around all year, but by the end of the year, there will be an odd man out on this offense. I would assume he's probably correct. Mitch, as we sit here, there's only one ball, as they like to say. Is there an offensive playmaker with a big name or a well-known name that you think might have a lesser role that people are not expecting, or maybe will be surprised, like, player X only had this many touches on this offense?
Yep.
Go for it.
I think
I know
Curtis
who you're going to
Samuel-
say.
What am I going to say?
Wait, did you already say it?
He
I
said
did,
it, but
yes.
let's see if you say it.
Go ahead.
I think Curtis Samuel is going to be the guy who's going to be lost in the shuffle here. I think you're going to see Jahan Dotson get a lot of those kind of gimmicky plays, and Antonio Gibson's going to get in there for some of those as well. I think Curtis Samuel is going to be on the field obviously a pretty fair amount this year, but I think the amount of touches he's going to get is only going to go down as the year goes on, because I think they're going to do a much better job of getting the ball in Terry McLaurin's hands and Jahan Dotson and company. What did you think I was going to say, JP?
I couldn't remember if it was you or Pete that was saying they were worried that Terry wasn't getting that many looks during minicamp from Howell. So I thought it was
No, not me. No, I know folks were excited about
that was
Logan.
Pete. You might have been.
I was concerned about Logan Thomas.
Yeah, but what is if Logan gets 60 target? Like, what are we expecting there? You know, I'd almost argue for Curtis too. Like, I don't think he's going to get the backfield touches he got, but
Well, I agree with Curtis, because Curtis's whole shtick was, or a lot of his shtick was, hey, he knows the Panthers offense. They're going to use him the way they did in Carolina. Scott's not here. Ron is hanging out. EB's running the show. And I think Dotson, as much as I love Curtis, the versatility, his personality, his speed, his cutting, I think Dotson has so much more to offer if he stays healthy. Those highlights, I mean, the more you watch, like you go back and watch some of the Twitter clips of him, he was nasty. And I think him and McLaurin, not that they can be Hill and Waddle because they don't have Tua and those guys are the best duo, but I think they can be a diet version of that. And if they now they have so many guys on offense who are going to be competing for touches too, but I think those two will be the stud receivers. I think the running backs will get an equal distribution, and I think Thomas and Turner will do plenty as the tight end. So I think Curtis will be the odd man out. Just not as coaches in his corner anymore, and there's just so many players who want to do well with the ball in their hands that can also just be typical receivers. Curtis is in between all of it, I think.
So I'm going to cop out and say this will all be dictated by health. But two, looking at last year, Ryan Robinson missed 5 games and missed like 6 or 7 starts. Like, still led this team with 214 touches.
Damn,
that's a lot of volume, dude.
He had that one stretch, like Eagles, Falcons, Vikings, like it was just 18, 22, 26. Like they fed him.
So Samuel led the wideouts with touches with 102. Gibson was at 195. But in targets, it was Terry, then Samuel, then Logan, then Jahan. But Jahan missed 5 games. Logan missed a couple games. I mean, dude, if you told me that the target share among wideouts, and I'll include Logan here, is somewhat similar with Curtis's numbers going to Dots, like if Curtis and Dotson flip-flop, I'm not sure that that's inappropriate. Like McLaurin stays around 120, Dotson gets to 95 or so, and then maybe Logan and Curtis are both at like 75. Like that seems kind of right to me.
I think you got to get more than I think you got to get more targets to McLaurin, and I know that he said a decent number. As you talk about, 120 overall, but I think you need more. I think you need more out of him.
Well,
He's got to
dude,
be in the same target share as Tyreek Hill and Steph Diggs and Justin Jefferson. Like those guys, they're not going to ever get that volume, but the percentage wise has to be up there for him.
Well, dude, last year. Now it's a tight end. It's Kelsey, so it's not. It's still a clear number one, but it's not a wideout. I'd argue it's almost easier to get a tight end the ball if you want to than it is a straight wideout. Kelsey had 152 touches last year, and then Juju was 101, and then they spread it around a bunch. I mean, maybe we go back to when they had Tyreek Hill as a better comp. Again, not saying that's a direct comp, but like as a star wideout.
I mean, look, Garrett Wilson got $150 last year. Like,
yeah, but I'm looking at Eric Bieniemy's offense. I'm not just picking offenses. Hill 2 seasons ago, 159 targets, and then Kelsey was at 134.
Yeah.
So maybe that's more what you want to see. I don't mind. Like, if it means Terry gets 150 and Jahan gets 85, which is roughly in 21.
Yeah,
it was 159 for Hill, 83 for Mecole Hardman, and obviously Dotson's better than Mecole Hardman. If it's 150 and 90, or if it's 125 and 105, I think I might prefer that. With Dotson a little more even.
And hey, maybe the
I don't know, maybe that's splitting hairs, but
yeah,
picking hairs, as Pete likes to say.
Maybe the premise that there will be some spaced out is wrong. I mean, someone is going to come last in this group that we're talking about, but they all have appealing skill sets. Perhaps it is just sprinkled all around, and no one's really, begging for touches.
I think you'll see Curtis Samuel's rushing attempts go down. He got 40 touches as a ball carrier. 38. I think that'll go down. I think, dude, I mean, Jonathan Williams got 44 touches last season. I don't think we're going to see that.
Injuries,
we've discussed how the screens are going to,
because of all the, yeah.
We think Brian Robinson's going to get the ball, 26 times a game for 7 straight games. I don't think
I think like the missing 5 games, it didn't benefit him in any way getting shot. Of course, that's not what I'm saying, but like he came in fresh when the rest of the running backs had played for a month, and it was an injection of energy for that room. And he won't have that this year. So, and we've seen how the screens are going to factor into this offense. Getting the ball to Samuel is an easy way to get him out in space. So maybe I'll back off and just say everyone will be happy. Everybody will get a lot of touches, but as long as Terry is the leader by a good amount, I would really enjoy that.
It all depends on health. I think that's just too hard to project.
Participation trophy Pete just wants everyone to be happy.
We go so long on these mailbags because the people ask really good questions. I think we do one more, or if there's sticky ones, we do a shtick speed round.
A quick speed round.
Okay. Okay, this one's really good. Again, this will take a little thinking, but this can be the last one. What's one moment in the team's last 10 years you wish you could have been a fly on the wall for? And that's exhausting. There is so much.
Mitch, remember when we asked for the sticky speed round?
Yeah.
Well,
I think the post RG3 era, the most seminal moment was whatever the conversation was that they ended up with Dwayne Haskins at quarterback. So to be a fly on the wall when Dan Snyder told them you're taking Dwayne Haskins there at 15. That's to me, that's the moment that I think has been what's shaped the franchise to this point of there. So I'll go with that.
I think that's the most devastating football move Dan Snyder ever made. And that includes Dion and Albert Haynesworth. Just think about if they take the people they liked then were Sweat and Brian Burns. Sweat's still here. Burns has been really good for Carolina. If you take that, you still have your second there. And, you had some stud receivers there. DK Metcalf. There's a lot of talent in that draft. The following year,
you spin forward the quarterback thing where
so if you're at number 2 and you've got Herbert, it would probably likely be the guy. Tua coming off the hip. then you still have. I think that's the most devastating football decision Dan ever made. The other moment that I think would have still been within a 10-year window is the meeting when Robert, with Dan's support, told Kyle and Mike that he would no longer run the zone
Read option. Yeah.
Yeah, the read option. And I think that would have been a hell of a moment. I also, it never became as well known or talked about as some of the Kyle RG3 stuff, but like Jay and Kirk had some battles. I would have liked to be around for some of those. And there was some fun stuff. I mean, one of the most fun moments was that locker room after the Monday night game of Philly last year. Like
being on that plane when they were all drinking beers would have been a good addition.
I heard after they beat the Cowboys week 18, there was a pretty fun evening. Like I imagine there's been some real fun stuff.
Is that the Colt McCoy win in
No, I'm talking about Sam Howell.
Oh, last year.
My choice, I'll go quick. I would love to see them plan out the Sean Taylor statue, what the options were, who loved it, who thought it was going to go great. And then I would take my little fly wings and I'd fly back into the meeting room to see them after all the backlash, how they backpedal. And just, I like seeing bad stuff more than good stuff. And I think that was one of the worst off-field things that's largely harmless, but pretty embarrassing at the same time.
All right, one shtick. We got to go.
There's no more shtick. It's all serious, boring football stuff. Just kidding. I love our listeners, but that's all.
Okay, hell of a finale.
That was a good mailbag there.
It was. Everybody asked me questions, but they went hardcore.
Pete's instincts always delivering.
He's gonna need those instincts in Mexico. It's gonna go well.
Yeah, dude. Just like stay in the bougie areas. Yeah. That's my advice.
Yeah,
he does that right now anyway. So in DC, so he's fine.
Yes, I'll be okay. We've learned enough Spanish. We're staying in a nice Airbnb, or got some good dinner reservations. We're not doing anything risky. I have no interest in that. We'll be in our place, locked up by 9 p.m., having drinks on our couch.
I don't think you have to do that either.
Yeah,
like, I think there's a middle ground where you can enjoy yourself. Just be smart and aware, and don't. Honestly, a big part of it is don't get too drunk, too sloppy, and
My suggestion is eat as many street tacos as humanly possible. And be creative. Try some grasshoppers. Try some weird stuff that you wouldn't try.
You think Pete should do that?
Yes, he should.
I ate a cicada on your radio show.
That was nothing.
Little chapalinas.
I will have a great time. I've never done anything like this. I go to Cape Cod. I go on road trips for the team. I used to, at least, and I hang out with you guys on JP's porch. This is so beyond what I would expect to do with the summer. So I'm fired up.
Have you left the country before?
Twice to visit my siblings when they were studying abroad, but I was like 8 years old and I cried because I missed America, and my mom bought me Game Boy video games to try and hold me over. And it was really, really sad. So I'm going to try not to cry this time.
All right, bud. Good luck. Godspeed. Vaya con Dios.
Gracias, mis amigos. Te amo mucho. Te amo mucho. Tú eres mis amigos mejores. You're my best friends. Goodbye, everybody.